Hello, my name is Margaret Adele, and welcome to another indie book review. This one is really long in the making. Early in September, I had this insane idea that I would upload a video every day of December. That did not happen. I did not start prepping nearly soon enough or do nearly enough to make it work. However, I did get a little bit in the way of content for that month in a couple of review books that I was specifically asking for wintry or Christmas themes. So I've had this book for a while, and while that fell through, I wasn't just going to not give a review after I promised to. So it's a little bit later. My December got insanely insane. So today I am making good on my promise, and I am reviewing Caroline's Lighthouse by Brandi Easterling Collins. This is a YA ghost story, essentially. I believe it is marketed as a mystery about a young girl who comes back to her mother's family's estate after her mother has passed. They are going to turn the house into a bed and breakfast, but some strange things might be happening. There is a lighthouse, as in the title, and purportedly Caroline, our modern protagonist's ancestor, also named Caroline, jumped from it to her death years ago. Now, the course of the story is all about what happened, why did she jump, was there this secret bow involved, and a lot of twists and turns along with that. Now, the course of this story was very much a case of plot versus writing style. The plot was very much there. We have the creepy house, we have the strange locked up lighthouse, which I haven't realized, but it really does make a good setting for a ghost story. We had all of these mysteries and all these different ways that our modern day Caroline is connected to the olden times Caroline, and an adorable romance between Caroline, our modern day, and her childhood friend Beau and their families. There was a pretty decent family dynamic with a pair of older twin brothers, as well as a stepmother and stepmother's two kids. And the idea of it is incredibly solid. It is very much there, and there were some adorable moments. However, the writing style was a little bit iffy at parts. For example, we begin with a gigantic info dump. And when I say gigantic, I mean pages and pages. You would have thought this was a high fantasy novel from how much info dumping there is at the beginning. You are given every character in the main family's hair and eye color. If they're a child, you're given which parent they take after in looks. There are family friends, and you get an in-depth explanation as to why these people are family friends of the parents. Almost none of it was needed, because when you give so much description in such a short period of time, the majority of it doesn't stick. Like, I could tell you that the older twin brothers did not look like each other. They were, I'm assuming, fraternal, but I could not give you details beyond that. And that was kind of the issue with that setup, is with so much information, with so little plot, and so many pages, none of it really sticks. And the first descriptions of the house go that way a lot as well. It's not a case of, let's stop in a room, something happens in the room, we're going to focus on this room, and move to the next room, something happens in this room. It was very much a case of going through the rooms very quickly and getting an in-depth description into all of them. And as a result, I have a vague idea of what it all is in my head. But again, no specifics beyond, there's a lot of bookcases and fireplaces. There was also, and this again is such a silly pet peeve of mine to have, but it is, the lack of contractions in their dialogue. This is something that I see a lot in books, especially early on in an author's career, where because everyone knows that contractions aren't really used in formal academic writing, they'll also take it out of informal fiction writing. But in dialogue, it comes across very unnatural. People speak in contractions. We say don't and can't. And we use even more informal contractions like gonna or wanna or ain't. And to take all of those out under the guise of being grammatically correct actually makes it more awkward in a nonfiction dialogue setting. The best way to double check this, if you're ever reading or writing and you want to see what the dialogue is like, take a character that is somewhat close to your demographic. Like in this case, most of the characters here were white and living in the US. So I am a white woman living in the US. So if I'm speaking these things aloud and it feels really stilted coming out of my mouth, usually means that that was just some poor dialogue. Obviously, you can't use that trick for like super old historical fiction or people that come from different cultures than you. But in this case, when I tried reading them aloud, it felt a little awkward. The characters are also very quick to speak their feelings. We have some characters that have deep-seated struggles. I particularly liked why one of the twins, who is the most diehard skeptic of ghosts, reveals why he's so skeptical. It was actually a really heartbreaking reason, but they speak their fears and desires very bluntly and often, and that's weird. And it's just kind of, it feels more like they're giving the protagonists all the necessary info rather than this is what they would actually say to each other regularly and naturally. And there are other parts where the protagonist will speak very bluntly about how bad the family dynamic was when her father first remarried Margot and how they basically we're in screaming matches, and then suddenly it's like perfectly fine at this point in time, and there's nothing wrong, and it's all fine, and it's almost like it was too fine, if that makes sense. Maybe I just love drama too much, but like when Caroline starts her relationship with Beau, first of all, she hardly ever has a single kiss with this boy in private. Almost every single one of them is in front of witnesses. And like the way everyone talks about her relationship is very strange. Like they're all assuming she's going to end up married to this kid. And it's like, I think she's like 15. It was a little bit weird how over the top supportive, and that sounds weird to say, but like how focused, I guess would be a better way to say it, how focused they were. Like it makes sense for your young YA protagonists to be, you know, low-key obsessed with that first relationship, but it felt like everyone else was too, which didn't make a lot of sense. The ghost story in itself was, again, very just telling you things, but the things they told you were intriguing. So that's why I mentioned before that this seems very much plot versus writing style versus those two working together, because the plot feels much more ghost story mystery, but the writing style feels much more like almost mid-grade at parts and contemporary. But the things that you learned about Caroline's life and the end of her life, the olden times Caroline and her beau and all that kind of stuff, is very YA. So there are certain times where it doesn't mesh up perfectly together. However, again, the setting was fairly well done. The plot itself, the bare bones of it, very much there, which I'm finding more and more with indie books. It seems that the plot is almost always never lacking. It's usually the writing style, which, fortunately, you can always improve on. I would still 100% read something else that Brandi Easterling Collins puts out. The ideas are very much there. This was still very worth the read. It's fairly quick because of the simplistic writing style, so there's kind of, you know, double-edged sword there. But in general, if you like YA ghost stories, this is definitely one you should check out. Now, if you are an indie author and are interested in a video review somewhat like this one, please let me know. I will have my email down in the description below. I will also have my review policy down there. Please give that a read through before you send the email. It answers a lot of questions and saves us a lot of time. And with nothing else to say, I hope you have a wonderful day and a marvelous tomorrow.